Hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Courtney.
And welcome back to the OGKGs, the original Crazy Girls. So please excuse how I look. I had a choice to get prettied up for this or to do an online yoga class and then just get right on this. So I decided to go for the yoga.
Absolutely. Good choice.
So you're getting me in my natural state. But we are the OGKGs, the original Crazy Girls, and we are hoping that you will post any questions that you have in comments because we love when you participate with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little reminder, if you haven't tuned in before, a crazy girl is a person of any sex or background or any age and comes from anywhere in the world. And we're here to help promote better mental health, or if you love someone who struggles, to help support them. And we just wanted to say a big thank you for being here and for supporting the Crazy Girl Project. It all started as an idea and now we are where we are, and I think it's a really awesome thing, especially as a mother-daughter duo. It really means so much to us. We want to help everyone feel better and to be able to live their best lives. So we're going to give you advice about anything we possibly can. Today is all about anxiety, and coming from me having experienced it, her having experienced it, and being a therapist to help people, we just want to help you to be your best self.
Excellent. And before we start, we are doing this live on Facebook, so anybody that's watching us is part of our awesome Crazy Girl Survival group. But we're also posting this on our website, and we have started a YouTube channel. So if you're seeing this and you're not on our Facebook group, please check us out on the Crazy Girl Survival group on Facebook, and it's with a K. Crazy's with a K because we're rebranding Crazy. We're trying to take the old connotations and stigma out of that and turn it into something that's empowered, crazy, enthusiastic. We are Crazy Girl ambassadors, and that's the new meaning of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about anxiety today, and we're going to dive deep into what anxiety actually is, how it feels, what helps. I do want to say that we don't give medical advice, so please always trust your instincts, and anything that you hear from anybody, always filter it through your own values, your own belief systems, because really we are our own healers, and ultimately we have to do what's right for us. So I'm going to give you an overall of what anxiety is about, and then Courtney will share what it actually feels like. So anxiety is a term that references many different experiences, and they all kind of fall under an umbrella term called anxiety. It can range on an intensity scale from very low to very high. It can last a short time or a long time. For some people, anxiety takes the form of panic attacks or overwhelming anxiety. And for some people, there may be a social aspect, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. It can involve worry about specific things, or it can be a generalized thing. Most people that have anxiety tend to want to avoid the things that make them anxious, or like me, I tend to exert control to try and feel safer. So just keep in mind that whatever you may experience, if it feels like anxiety for you and you struggle with it, then it is anxiety.
Absolutely. And anxiety is something that so many people in the world go through on a daily basis, and I'm one of those people. I've struggled with it for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, it would kind of present itself through my dreams. I used to have really bad nightmares, and also through social anxiety. I would have it would seem as though I had a fine time making friends, but I would just sit there and judge myself and compare myself to them, which at times, can be that way as well. But no matter how well I'm doing in my life in every other aspect, it always feels like anxiety can get in the way. And this is something that I've learned to work around, because I'm not going to let anxiety or depression or any other thing ruin my life or stop me from doing the things I want to do on a daily basis. And, like every other human, pretty much, maybe not Gandhi. I have worry thoughts that basically consume me at some times. Today I kind of fell victim to that, not gonna lie, but just having the energy and the mental willpower to push through and focus on things that make you happy and like take you out of that dark space will help you to be your best self. And I want to share all the tips that I have with you about this topic, because I don't want anyone else to be in the same position, even though I know so many of us are struggling with it.
And you've worked really hard, and I'm so proud of you, because it's not easy. And if you're having a bad day, a bad few days, it's hard to have a perspective that will let you move forward. And when you make the good choices like you have, it creates a different life for yourself. So maybe you can share a little bit about what are some of the ways that you push through your anxiety, and what are some of the ways that you've learned to cope with it?
Absolutely. So I would say my number one thing is using DBT skills. DBT stands for dialectical behavioral therapy, and it's basically just a type of therapy that you can use. We're going to talk a little bit more about it later in the video, but throughout my work with learning DBT and self-regulation, I have sort of found that like the main thing that helps me push through and cope is to just be present. If it's using please skills or dear man or all these things that we can go further into depth about, it's all about just staying true to myself and being mindful and being in the present moment. Because if you're wrapped up in your anxiety, you're not in the present moment, and that's something you need to catch yourself in before it gets like spiraled out of control and you just feel like crap. So I love DBT skills, and we are going to continue to talk about them throughout the video.
So DBT, like Courtney said, stands for dialectical behavior therapy. Dialectics is the concept that two things or multiple things can exist at the same time. We tend to think that if this is true, this cannot be true. So dialectics is this and that. Maybe I've had a bad day today, and I'm going to push through and make a video and show up for my life. So there are 4 modules to DBT. Mindfulness, like Courtney talked about, trying to stay present in the moment. That's what, when I do our little relaxation, or when you take a deep breath and you just look around and you notice maybe 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things you can taste. You try to ground yourself in the present moment. It's consciously bringing yourself to the now, because most of the time that we have a lot of anxiety, we're either in the future worrying about what's going to happen, or in the past dwelling on something that has already happened that maybe we don't feel so good about. So when we come to the present moment and we kind of down-regulate our body consciously, it allows us to not be consumed by anxiety. So mindfulness is part of it, emotional regulation skills, interpersonal effectiveness, which is dealing well with other people and being able to handle distress. And if you're interested in it, there's great workbooks, wonderful therapists. DBT is a fabulous therapy for getting yourself into the present.
Thank you, Marsha Linehan.
Yeah,
She's
Marsha
the one
Linehan.
who created it.
She's an amazing person. Oh, so my dog is about to start howling because there's some kind of sirens outside, and the dog just goes nuts. But we'll just carry on. Anyway, so thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that like there are different things from all the modules of DBT that I have taken and integrated into my everyday life. Some of my favorite things are and it's really hard for me to attribute them to which category of the 4 they go into, but whether it's sticking my head in a bucket of ice water to bring me back to the present moment, because like how can you not feel present when your head
or
is
just
in
grab
ice?
an ice cube and hold it in each hand if you don't want to ruin your makeup, because most people aren't going to dump their head.
Yes.
You take a cold shower or hold.
Or a really good thing that I really like to do is if I'm not going to put my head in it, I would freeze an orange and like just squeeze on the really cold orange. That feels great. That's like, it's really hard to not be present when you're doing that. Or doing 20 jumping jacks, or writing down thoughts, or watching funny videos to do opposite action. Yep. All of those things kind of help shake away the bad feelings and like make you feel like you're present, and doesn't even give you time or brain space to be able to dwell in the past or the future. So
yeah, that's key. What is the one most important thing you think to changing your brain space? It starts with a W.
Oh, willingness.
What is willingness? What is that?
Willingness is like the key to all of this. It means not getting defensive and not putting up walls. You have to be willing to feel better, which is like where willingness comes in. Because if you're not willing to feel better, you're not going to, and you have to put in that mental energy. You don't just snap your fingers and you feel better. You have to be willing to put in the effort to be able to pull the skills out of your pocket, to call your therapist, to call a friend, to color, to do all of these things that we learn to help ourselves. You need to be willing to actually put it into play, because it can be really, really easy, and I know this firsthand, to stick in the regular, in your sadness, and to dwell in it, and to lay down, and to not do anything helpful. So it takes willingness, absolutely.
And that's very mature, and that's something that we all come to, right? Like, even as a parent, I'll get frustrated. So my anxiety, I'm more of an outie. I think of anxiety like belly buttons, innies and outies. And I think Courtney tends to be more of an innie, and she holds things inside. I tend to be an outie. So I will clean the kitchen. I will make sure that everything is taken care of, and I can be very tough about it. And that's also a way of trying to manage anxiety, through managing my environment.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work on that as well, just to tolerate that things are not necessarily the way I would choose them at times. And such is life.
Absolutely.
We carry on. It's not always going to be peaches and roses, for sure.
For sure.
So I do want to say something else about anxiety. Anxiety happens as a result of our thoughts or our perceptions, but it actually really happens in the body. And most people go into one of 3 or 4 different body states in the face of anxiety. And I know you've all heard this: fight, flight, flee, and then there's kind of a new one that people have identified called fawn, which is like people pleasing. So fight is me. I get angry rather than feel or tolerate my emotions sometimes. I think Courtney goes into flight, which is run away or try to avoid. Flee is really a different level of just shutting down and panic. And fawn is really trying to, make relationships feel better. And women tend to do this thing called tend and befriend in stress, where we'll cook, or we'll circle the wagons, and we'll try to connect with each other. And I think that that's a uniquely kind of female thing.
Absolutely.
For anxiety. But I'm curious about, if you'd like to share any thoughts that you might have about how you might experience anxiety.
Yeah, and I would like to, So
I have a question right here.
Yes, that's.
All right. How about strategies for anxiety in the middle of the night when it prevents you from a good night's sleep? That's a great question, Cheryl. Thank you for asking it.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So you
may go with it. Once a thought takes hold, and especially for, a woman of a certain age, I think it's hard to let it go. And I think that, to have strategies almost in advance for knowing that maybe you're prone to a thought taking hold. So for myself, I will do anything I can to try to keep a thought from forming. So if I'm feeling that feeling, I'll try to count backwards from 100, or do the alphabet backwards, or try to think of something that requires mental energy but doesn't let that thought take hold in your mind, because once it gets you, it's hours usually, and then you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock. So it's very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And some other strategies is, it's always, I know my dad's always reminding me, if you're caught up in your thoughts, just put on a short little YouTube film, and it's really hard to focus on. I mean, it's pretty easy depending on what it is, but it's hard to stay wrapped up in a thought when you are watching something that's maybe hilarious or really, really cute, like a cute animal. And so if you're in the middle of the night and you're not sleeping, it might be good. We all have our phones, whether it's right next to you, or right downstairs. It's really nice to just go put on something cute, funny, whatever it is. Maybe it's your favorite song, maybe you have a song. I know I have a song that I play when I have anxiety, and it's called Good as Hell by Lizzo. It's a really good song.
See, I learned something
and it makes
new.
me feel good as hell, so I do play that.
Something else to keep in mind is these things are really normal, and we all have anxiety. I mean, my dog has anxiety, my cat has anxiety. It's a biophysiological thing. We are wired to, and it helped our species evolve to try and think ahead. If we could figure out, where food's going to come from or how we're going to take care of something, it actually served an evolutionary purpose. So it's really important to try not to judge yourself and try not to be hard on yourself, and figure out what type of anxiety you tend to have, what your triggers tend to be. If we can be proactive in advance, with lots of loving kindness and lots of gentleness, that, I tend to have a certain trigger, it tends to present itself in this way, and I'm going to be proactive about it. You know what? And that could be having some lavender. A lot of people really like CBD. I happen to be a fan of biochemical cures, if you will. That's controversial. Some people like medication, some people don't. Some people, like natural remedies. Some people take absolutely nothing. I will tell you that for sleep, there are like Benadryl can be really helpful or something like that. So don't be afraid to use something or plan in advance.
Absolutely. And I see that we have a few comments that we'll respond to.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. I tend to experience anxiety and panic attacks when I'm driving, especially at night. I'm alone with my thoughts, and sometimes my music won't help. Any tips for when you're somewhat limited in the actions you can take? That's a really good question.
That is a really good one. So I actually, something strikes me as, what I would do in that situation as well. I think if you're driving and you're having panic attacks, or if you're driving and you're just having a lot of anxiety, I think it's best to, if possible, pull over, and because you're not going to really be able to work much out while you're driving, although it is something that keeps you grounded because you have to focus on it with your full attention driving. It's a lot easier to deal with the anxiety or get it to a lower level and then maybe continue. So I think if possible, it would be great for you to pull over, anywhere safe, of course, and do some 4-count breathing. So that means that you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really hard to stay wrapped up in your thoughts when all you're thinking about is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. And if you give your full self to that and commit yourself to that, then I think it's really going to help you feel better. And I would say to get the anxiety, especially with panic attacks. I've had panic attacks while driving before, and it's really scary, and it's not fun at all. They're not fun even when you're not driving, but it's even scarier when you're behind a moving, a piece of machinery that could really hurt someone else. So I think doing your best to pull over is really helpful.
And sometimes you can't. I mean, that's great advice. And I do love the 4-part breathing and grounding. I've personally had this happen to me, like in the Lincoln Tunnel, when there's no place to pull over. And I really just take some slow, deep breaths in and breathe out and stay really focused on just being in the present moment. What feeds a panic attack and anxiety more than anything else is the fear of having a panic attack, or the fear that something really bad's going to happen. And that's why people tend to avoid things, because they're afraid they're going to have panic attacks, and then that can keep you kind of stuck in the house or can keep you from doing things that you want to do. So if there's anything that's really calming in advance, knowing that you'll get through, and the fear of the panic attack is generally worse than the panic attack. So slow, deep breaths and keeping yourself present, I think.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. There's a few more questions, which I love. Thank you so much. Let's see. Night terrors. Let's see. Anxiety manifests for me in night terrors, and so very near my bed, I keep notes taped that I can look at quickly that remind me of my name, where I am, and that I am safe. I really like that.
I like that as well.
That's an awesome, self-loving, grounding tool.
Absolutely.
So let's see. I'm not going to do a guided imagery at the end of this tonight, because I figured I would just keep these episodes for the topic at hand, but I am going to do some guided imagery and some relaxation, frequently. And I think that just the concept of down regulating, right? Like that we can influence the vibration of our bodies and our minds by directing our thoughts, by slowing down our breath, by being present in the moment, by being loving and accepting of ourselves. These are some of the best tools that we can have, and especially now when there's so much uncertainty in the world, and there's so many things that are pushing our anxiety buttons. We don't know what's happening, and how this whole, corona thing is going to play out. And so for me, as much yoga, as much grounding, as much keeping my energy in the spot that I want it to, and trying to be kind, forgiving, and loving of myself and others is the best advice I can give.
Absolutely. And I just want to give a little quick reminder that we would love to have you ask any questions you may have. If it's something you didn't feel comfortable asking a friend, or if you don't have a therapist, something you would have always wanted to ask them, you can message our Facebook account, you can message my mom, you can message me personally.
On our website, there's a whole space for Ask the OGKGs, and you can post any questions.
Yeah, so we really thank you for coming out again and for listening to us. We love hearing what you have to say and giving us any thoughts or feedback in this process to make it the best we can possibly.
And we love, being able to share with you, and hopefully there's value in it. And thank you so much for your participation in the group, in the project, in normalizing mental health issues. They are normal. They're completely normal. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We love you. And 22 minutes, not bad. I think that's a good amount of time.
Thank you.
Tune in next week. Our conversation is going to be about depression. And we look forward to your thoughts and your questions all the time. So, love you all.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.